Hey there, Dr. JP Guidry here. I just finished a little speed training session. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about kind of how I approach speed training, especially when it comes to live balls and hitting balls. So I do think that's an important part of your program if your goal is to add swing speed. So within the strengthening and the mobility and the power and even other speed training modalities such as super speed, we still want to do some live ball speed training. So feedback obviously is necessary with this. So I recommend that every one of my students have some kind of a monitor. So we have this PRGR here, which is what I use. We also have these radars as well, which are a little cheaper, but in the end, as long as you're measuring with the same device, obviously if you have some kind of a simulator, I have the flight scope here and here. You have access to TrackMan or in-home simulators, getting that data, just make sure you're measuring on the same device when you're doing this. So we need that feedback for two reasons. So we can track improvements. As we're tracking, we're going to be tracking three factors. So most of my students I have once a week hit 10 balls playing speed with driver, 10 balls max speed with driver. And then we're tracking those numbers and we're looking at the maxes, the averages, and the lows of those. And we're seeing, how those trend. Obviously, we want to see those trend upwards over time. Not that you're necessarily going to be improving those every session either. Secondly, I start to bring in some contact feedback. So one of the best training tools out there, some powdered foot spray. This is going to start to give you feedback of where your contact is on the face. So I just did a session. You can see that my tendency is to miss towards the heel. The faster I start going, the more that miss gets towards the heel. And I know there's some things in my swing that I'm still working on mechanically with that. But, as we're trying to train contact, I'm using this for feedback just to see what's happening. But also, I'm starting to, as speed goes up for me, I'm starting to add in a little more contact focused training. So I'm now starting to see what I need to do to move that contact more towards the center of the face. So for me, my feel is hit it off the toe. I'm trying to hit it off the toe. So within that speed training, I'm starting to add in kind of that extra feel. I don't like to add in a lot of mechanical thoughts and things with speed training because it tends to slow things down. I like to separate those two boxes. So if I'm working mechanics, I'm working that. If I'm working speed, I'm working speed. But I do think it's important to add in some contact and anything for feedback. I kind of know where that number, once I start getting over 110, 112, which is probably my kind of when I'm jumping from comfortable playing speed into more where I'm going at it hard, I see that contact start to get much more towards the heel. So part of my training is to get better at finding the center of the face at those faster speeds. For me, that's gotten better. That used to be 105 to 108, which is where my comfortable playing speed was, where I felt comfortable that I could hit the ball solid. So that's going up as my max speed is going up as well. And so, training both of those things I think is an important part of speed training when you're doing that. And I think we need to kind of separate that from everything else, just like we would other skills of the game. I think there needs to be some specific time spent on swinging the club as fast as we can, hitting a golf ball, having that speed feedback, and having that number to kind of chase, but also to track, and then having an understanding of what happens to contact when we do that, and getting better at finding the center of the face at those higher speeds. So just something, I get a lot of questions about that, especially when people really start speed training early on. When we first starting it, I'm not too worried about contact. You can still use it for feedback, but we're not necessarily chasing contact, especially when we're doing max speed. But over time, I like to bring more of that into the speed training as clients and students start making progress. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me, johnpaulguidrypt.com. You can message me on any of the social media platforms.